Hello, nice to see you again. This time virtually, but it's been a while since we met in person, right?
Yeah, I think it's been 2.5, 3 years. We met during a working event. It helps young women in their careers to find mentors. And I think that was the point when I realized how important it is to have mentors. And that's why I decided to have this session. And you were the speaker when I attended. So I had you in my mind. I'm so glad that you could join in today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, the world has changed a lot in the past 2-3 years. So things have changed. For some things for better, for some things for worse.
Yeah, definitely. So can you please tell me a little bit about your professional background?
Well, actually, when I did this speaker session for working, it was at the end of my first year in London. So I've been in London for around 5 years now. I work in the middle office department in the treasury of a bank here in London. Before that, I had been living in Madrid for another 5 years. I was the electronic trader administrator for the same bank, but I always wanted to move abroad to have the experience of working abroad because I had been studying abroad before. I studied international economics, and thanks to the Erasmus scholarship, I spent a year in France, and then I got a scholarship to do an international master's. Back then, it was supported by the European Commission, so I got to study in the UK, Belgium, and Czech Republic. So it was really good international experience. And after that, I was always like, I like economics, I like writing, I like speaking, but I don't want to be a professor. So I was offered a PhD. Most of my friends from back home, from the masters, went to do some PhDs, but also I had some other colleagues that they went to corporate world. So I want to do some maybe banking finance. Let's give it a go. And obviously it was 2010, 2011, worst time ever to find a job. So I decided to do a master in banking and finance to get this specialization actually from a master's, because there were not so many seats in banking and finance at that point. And I did a year internship in the treasury as well in Madrid. I was for a while an FX broker. So I've been in this business for, oh my God, a lot of time. But as I said, I thought I was going to be an economist, and now I ended up being a middle office in the treasury. So the world is full of opportunities.
Yeah. So how did you end up at working as a mentor?
Well, actually, it arrived to my inbox when I joined the UK branch here in London. I thought like, oh, well, I mean, me being a mentor, like, okay, fine. I work in a bank in London, but I'm too young. What am I? I mean, I just arrived here.
Yeah.
This like big different world, because even if I came from Madrid, that is a big city, London is a completely different monster, especially when it comes to finance. So what am I going to tell to these people? Do I have something to share? And a friend of mine said, you know, you always give very good advice. Just fill in the form, and if they contact you, just do it and see. It's a way to also to meet other people in the same sector. Because when I arrived here, something that I realized is that after work, the city was full of blue shirts.
Yeah.
Like there were not many dresses or many girls walking around after work. So I realized how male dominated this industry was. You have to be there to feel it. And I thought maybe there are other people feeling the same.
Yeah.
So that's a bit how I discovered working. So they came to my job inbox, work email. Yeah, I fill in the form. Apparently they thought I was useful to help some other people.
Yeah. So how do these mentorship programs work? And I know many people who get confused between sponsorship and mentorship. So what's the difference between those two?
Okay, so I'm going to continue speaking about how this working mentorship works. So this one, it was run by an organization for women in banking. So basically you could volunteer for a mentor, or you can ask for a mentor, right? So they did the match. Someone that said like, oh, I work in treasury, or I would like to work in treasury, and I find difficult when I have an interview because everyone sitting at the table is a man, or because I'm a foreigner and I would like to move to London, but obviously I'm a foreigner, so I don't know the culture and everything. How did you make it? So it was like a matchmaking thing, right? So you feel in your interest, what you think you are good at, because for example, I consider that I'm very good at speaking. Some people are more shy. So maybe they try to match someone that is more shy with someone that is more outgoing. So the relationship keeps going more natural, because if two people are shy or two people are very talkative, that's not going to work. So they did the match, and basically I got a girl from Paris, which I was very surprised, because I thought, oh, I mean, I just moved to London and the first person I'm going to meet is from Paris, right? But as we said at the beginning, 3 years ago, we lived in a completely different world, and Paris and London was just 2 hours train. So it's like we get to see each other a few times. I went to Paris, she came to London. It was a very easy relationship in terms of location, even though we were apart. We started with emails. It's true that I don't think we had video calls, but we had actual calls. So that trained me for this future that we are living now. She also worked in a CFO area, so in a bank in Paris. I was working in a Spanish bank in London. So even though I was here in London, the both cultures, European and Anglo-Saxon culture of doing things, were mixed. We get on very well. It was a very successful story. After this, I got another person. She was also a foreigner living in London. However, this whole thing exploded. And I haven't had the chance yet to meet her in person, although she's really involved in the things that I do as part of other women empowerment organizations. So sometimes relationships are not as we think they are, right? Like sitting with your mentor to have coffee. Yeah. Because maybe now that person is sitting somewhere else in the world, or maybe, last year that was not even possible to sit for a coffee anywhere. So you have to be flexible as a mentor and as a mentee. Basically, a mentor is there to help the mentee to network. The relationship should be driven by the mentee. But as I said before, sometimes mentees are shy, or they think, oh, these people is, even myself, I thought sometimes, oh, this person is like way above me. And how is this person going to find time to discuss this thing that has just happened to me? But you need to approach the mentor and try to get the most of that person, because obviously what you want is that person to become your sponsor. That the difference between a mentor and a sponsor is that a sponsor is someone that is already in your network. Okay. It's someone that already speaks about you to their own network. Okay. They sponsor you, right? Because we have to be careful to recommend people when we don't know them. So if you mentor someone, you get to know the real person, right? Because sometimes you can even get to speak about more personal situations in a professional environment. So if a job comes up, or if someone is looking for someone to do something, you have that person in mind. So you become a sponsor. So that's the difference between a mentor and a sponsor. A mentor helps you to network. A sponsor makes you part of their network.
Oh, wow.
That's how this first experience I had as a mentor worked. I also thought that, because I've been having this long distance mentorship relation and also virtual relationship during COVID, I thought like, okay, I think this is really interesting to take back to the master's I studied, this master's in banking and finance in my hometown. And I said, like, obviously they have the contact of thousands of students that were sitting in the same room as these people are now. And I think it's good for people like me that we studied 8 years ago to come back to them and see how their experience is different to ours, and also to save them the time to create this network, to find the different positions. Because some of them, is true that thanks to LinkedIn and other platforms, they are very open to approach you like, look, I see your work here or not. But some people, they don't have that, when they are 25 or so, and they are very green, they're not that brave to approach someone that they think it's far away in professional terms. But we were sitting there not so long time ago. So I proposed this to the director of the master, and she thought that it was a really good idea. So this one is a master's course. There are not so many students. Basically, people that were students, we said, okay, I agree to like share my CV and volunteer to do this. And actually the students picking up the mentors, because maybe they would like to do what they are doing now, or they would like to be where they are doing now. It's a different type of matchmaking, right? Sometimes you pick up your mentors, sometimes your mentees pick you. Yeah. It's a bit different. Sometimes someone else introduces you to your mentor at some point. So how you find a mentor? They are everywhere. They could be sitting next to you, or they could be somewhere very far.
Yeah. So once you're matched with a mentor, how to set the right expectations to make the most out of the relationship?
Well, I always expect or say that the mentee has to be proactive, because it's something that I wasn't. And I think it's true that especially if you want someone very senior to mentor you, it's true that that person has a lot of things to do, but the students also have a lot of things to do. Everyone is very busy these days. Yeah. But if a person volunteer, because after all, mentorship is a volunteer work. If a person volunteer to be your mentor, that person needs to commit to have that time. Maybe not at this very moment, but they will have the time, because it's something they will willing to do. So first, be proactive. If you are a mentee, try to ask as many questions, try to take as much knowledge from that person's experience. Don't be afraid to ask. And also from the mentor's perspective, try to get to know your mentee. And it's very easy. I had mentees that I saw that they were so sure of themselves. They knew what they wanted to do and they knew the way to how to do it. So then I thought, if you already know the what and the how, why are you asking me to mentor you? There must be something else that you don't dare to say because you are very sure about what you want. So for these people that they are so sure about the long-term goal, you have to like try to make them set maybe short-term, medium-term, some actual tiny steps that will take them to this goal. Because if they really want to do that, why not? They should try. But to get to some success in what you want to do, you have to take tiny steps. And also they have to be open, because you think you want something, because you're taking tiny steps. You are opening doors in your mind. So there's this other option that is not what I wanted to do, but it's quite similar. And maybe it's more convenient for me because I aligns more with my values or with my time expectations. So be open. And that's also very good for the mentors because they see how the mentees evolve. And that helps you think about yourself that, they can change their minds and be open about this. Maybe I should rethink for myself as well. So my advice is be proactive and ask questions, and also set tiny steps, tiny goals. At the beginning, you may think, this is not taking me anywhere, but those tiny steps are opening your mind. Obviously, if you are a mentor and at some points you get stuck because maybe it's the first time you're doing this, or sometimes the relationship doesn't flow, especially when it's like man-made match, right? Or algorithm, because I think the first this working was made by an algorithm. Sometimes things don't flow because whatever reason, they don't find the right time. Some people prefer to write emails, other people prefer video calls, other people prefer just to chat, other people want to like have a 50 minutes conversation, other people want to have a 1 hour conversation. So you need to adapt. And at some point you feel like, oh my God, I don't know how to move forward. There are mentorship guides, they're all over the place, some tiny steps to like move forward in that mentor-mentee relationship. So use all the tools you have available. If you are part of a program, usually they provide these tools like a mentor's guide, a mentee's guide. If it's something more casual, try to think about what would I like to learn from this person. After all, a mentor is a person that has walked a path that you want to walk. So it's someone that it's opening, right? Like when you are in the forest and you are cutting the bushes and the weeds. So try to take advantage of that.
Yeah. So I think the goal with having the mentors is that eventually you want them to become your sponsors. And for that, it is important to build up a long-term relationship. So what tips do you have to sustain that? I think I want to understand what level of professional or personal involvement that both parties should have.
Well, there are no rules about this in terms like some people want to keep the relationship very purely professional, which is good. Other people want to speak more about, because maybe some people their struggle is because they don't know what to study or with what they like, what type of jobs will fit with their life. Other people, the problem is like, I like what I do, but I'm having these personal problems at work because I don't know how to behave in certain situations. So some people are more open to speak about personal experiences. So other people, they just want to speak like, how can I do a correct work-life balance? What's your experience in your personal life doing this? Obviously, you as a mentor, you don't need to like share what you don't want to share. You as a mentee, you don't need to share what you don't want to share. Everything has to be confidential. That's why I think it's sometimes helpful to have mentors not in your corporation, for example, or not very nearby. So you have like persons that are actually near you, and other people that have a more objective point of view, even though they are living the kind of same situations. Because if your mentor is your manager, that could be, why not? And you have a problem with a colleague that is just a tiny frustration or a misunderstanding. You don't want to go to your manager like a school kid, like, I have this problem. But maybe you can talk about this with someone else that is manager in another team or in another area in a more open way, because it's more objective. It's a different relationship. So the relationship can evolve anyway. And how does it last long? What's the secret? I don't know. I have friends with whom I talk every day, and I have friends with whom I talk once a year. I have my friends I talk only in my birthday. And that doesn't mean that they are better or worse friends.
Yeah.
We just have a different type of relationship. So just create your own way of keeping the relationship. And as I I said many times, even if you haven't talked to your mentor for 2 years, if there is a question, just feel free to approach this person again, because maybe that person has lived a different experience and has something new to share. So just keep the relationship alive, because to have this support, this help, like the help button in your mind, like, okay, if I have a question, I have this person to give some support.
Yeah. So in terms of best mentorship programs, I know like Working is there, but apart from Working, which ones do you recommend? And for someone who doesn't want to go, let's say like a proper program, how can they approach someone? Maybe, I don't know, via LinkedIn or something? Should they do that?
Well, let's speak first about programs. Obviously, now this mentorship is all over the place. Universities offer mentorship, corporations offer mentorship. You just need to find first what I think you should do if you are looking for a mentor is identify your struggle. For example, when I arrived to London, I realized that even though I get on well with my colleagues, even though I fit in the environment, they were all mostly male. So there was some topics with whom I wanted to talk. And it's different, right? Because they don't understand, because they haven't lived the same situation, right? For example, if you are a man and a man, it's all right if you go every day after work for a beer. But if it's always the same man with the same woman going for a beer after work, that could be a problem. Yeah, even though, why not? I mean, it's a work relationship, but those tiny bits only if you are part of, I don't like this word, but if you are part of the minority, or if you are part, you understand. So that's why I got involved in this women in banking and finance networks. But if, for example, your struggle is like, for example, I'm Spanish and I arrived to London, and my struggle is like, oh my God, the culture is so different. When I say something, I'm very straightforward. Maybe you need to look for platforms that create mentorship, that support diversity, right? So people that have also been foreigners in the country tell their experiences. And they say, so when they say this, they actually mean that, and you should reply this way. So identify your struggle. And there are so many organizations out there. Obviously, in an ideal world, is a mentorship that evolves naturally in terms that I meet you, we start talking, suddenly we create some trust between each other. So when we have a question, I go to you or you come to me, like it evolves more naturally. But that doesn't always happen, because maybe most of the times you have people around you that have gone through the same thing, but sometimes they are around you, and because we are very focused in our work or in our own personal life, we don't see those people. But in general, we have to see what people around us have the same experiences. And it's not like, you want to be my mentor? That sounds weird, It's again, you have to tell like, oh, look, I see you are working in, I have a lot of students that approach me because they saw that I do some videos like this. And actually, that's something I realized, that they are very good. that I think younger generations are much better than older generations, is that when they approach me in LinkedIn, they don't say like, I saw that you had a video, that you wrote an article about mentorship and I want you to be my mentor. No, they said like, oh, I saw that you do this and that, and you study the same as you. And because I see that you are a person that are open to help other people, I have a couple of questions. So that's the way. Don't say like, I want to be your mentor. No, you have to like, why do you want me to like be your connection in LinkedIn? How can I help you? What are your questions? You have to tell a bit of storytelling, right? Because you have to be clear about what you want to get from that person. Because sometimes people ask me things that I say like, look, I think you should approach someone in this other area, or you can always give some guidance. But obviously, just because you are a woman, you work in a bank and in London, doesn't mean I'm going to be able to answer all the questions of women in banking in London. But I might know people that can sort out that problem. So if you approach someone, always approach them with a bit of background of why you think that person can help you, and a question like, I have a doubt on this, like, or how did you did that, or how did you find this? Introduce yourself, because sometimes it sounds like I want to be friends with you because you are, I don't know, a celebrity or something like that, something weird, right? You have to like, actually, this is a work that has to work both ways.
Yeah, that makes sense. And did you have any mentors, and what impact did they have on your career?
Well, that's the thing, right? That I arrived to London, I didn't know what a mentor was, or I didn't even heard about what mentor was. And you start thinking and say, okay, so this person, he is my mentor. Because ideally, mentorship relationship evolve naturally. So I can tell that this person, he is my mentor, because as of today, I approach him not just with professional questions, but also personal questions. And because it's a person that walked my path a long time away in different ways, but he kind of had the same experiences, the same things, the same interests that I had, different time, but still you felt the connection. And also because of time, there's a person that said like, look, we are speaking a lot about work, but personal life is also important. And you create this connection, right? That it's not a friendship, because when you are a mentor, you have to be as well objective. That's the hardest part of being a mentor. That's why your dad, even though your dad has the same profession as you, shouldn't be your mentor, or your mom, or your brother, or your best friend, because they are biased. In theory, they are supposed to love you, right? So they are going to avoid you from the suffering. And sometimes you need to push the person a bit into the dark so that person sees how's the world out there. And at the same time, it's true that you shouldn't say anyone, oh no, that thing you're thinking about, it's impossible, because everything is possible. But you need to be objective. Like, look, you want to be CEO. That's not going to happen in 2 years. So you have to be objective, not discourage people, but to bring some objectivity in the relationship. So that's the hard part, to be able to speak about professional and personal things with someone that you have trust, but at the same time, is going to give you an objective opinion. Then I also had, this case was completely different, and someone from my network introduced me to this woman in a more senior level. And it was a point in my career where I was very like, I don't know what to do next. My mind was very closed. Like, I'm happy here. I'm in a comfort zone. I know it's not right, but I need to talk to someone that is outside my network that gives me these tips to like rethink what I want. So this relationship was different. We met for coffee every now and then. And she was giving me like, okay, so for the next meeting, I want you to like, every day you have to write 3 things you want to change in your personal life, 3 things you want to change in your professional life, 3 things you can do to improve this, 3 things to do that. So it's a tiny exercise that forces you to open up your mind, right? To see it's more than I'm happy with my work and personal life, but there's more out there. So every day, there's always 3 things you can write about all these topics, 3 things you achieve, 3 things, whatever. So she was giving me these tiny steps to be more open and to have more confidence in myself, and also to rethink what I can do, right? Because sometimes when you're in your comfort zone, you think, oh, this is the thing I can do the best, and I like it, and it's the best I can do. No, you can always do more and get out of your comfort zone. So that mentorship was useful for that period of time. So sometimes you have mentors that last for a long time. Sometimes you go to certain people, or you get in contact with certain people to approach certain situations. So it's a bit like that. And I'm sure I have more people around me that have been helping me, but those 2 are, one that was more organic, and the other one that was more man-made or women-made.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you for sharing that. So what final piece of advice do you have for someone who is thinking about getting into a mentorship program?
First, don't underestimate yourself and don't underestimate others. Meaning by that, if you think that you're in a moment that you would like to pay forward to share your knowledge, don't say like, I'm in a very early stage of my career, I'm very junior. Your story is going to be useful for many people. And also, when you get a mentee or a mentor, don't say like, oh, it's too young, it's too old. Age doesn't matter, because you can learn a lot from young people. So there is another thing that is going on now, that is this reverse mentorship. So people that are very junior are mentoring people more senior, because obviously they have a different story, because people with 25 now, they don't have the same story as these senior level people with 25.
Yeah.
So don't underestimate anyone because of age, or because that person is still not at the top of their career. You think, for example, if you're in a program, I got this mentor that is almost at the same level as I am. But sometimes someone at the same level as you can help you with some things, because every story is unique. And that's my advice. Don't underestimate people in general, but especially in this case. And also, don't be afraid to ask questions, approach people. Some people are very reserved. I'm a very talkative person, but I struggle to ask questions. I did when I was a teenager. I was never asking questions at school. It's something you have to learn. And it's good to be independent in your research, but when you ask a question to a person, especially if it's work related or personal related, you get the answer that you can use later or not, but you get a more customized answer than if you just read an article or something. So ask questions, and ask questions to anyone. Maybe the intern in your company can answer that question. You never know. It can mentor you in some technological struggle. Like, look, I cannot live with this because I don't feel comfortable having video conferences, for example. Maybe that's something that an older people can be struggled with now. And someone very young that was born with FaceTime, it's okay, no, you do this, you do that. Some people say, for example, it's good if you have the conferences standing. So you can find your mentors anywhere. So don't underestimate anyone that can give you an answer to your question.
Yeah. So while you were talking, something came to my mind. I wanted to ask one last question. And it's that at some point, if you feel that this arrangement with your mentor or mentee is not working, so what should one do?
Actually, this is something that in the working program we were part of, there was this, if you work in a program, usually in the middle of the program, there is this moment when they say, like, do you want to rematch or do you want to keep with the person? Because as I said, sometimes you have relationships that of mentorship that can last forever, and others is like, okay, this person already helped me to what I needed at this moment. I would like to move forward with someone else. And if it's something that it was less program based, it was more natural. The relationship born and die every day, right? So maybe today we were talking before this, right? And we said, there was a point when we were talking a lot, the two of us. And then we talked a bit less. It's true that we kept track of what we both were doing, but we didn't talk such often. But that doesn't mean that maybe from now on, we're going to keep talking, maybe not that often, but a bit more often. So I don't think, unless you have a situation where you feel uncomfortable, I think the relationship will die naturally, and maybe in due time, it will reborn. If you're in a program and you think the relationship is not working, you should approach the program managers to say, okay, look, I think the match didn't go right. Or sometimes you can say, look, this person, I think is in the right way. I have the time to take over another person, to have another mentee. I'm happy to have two. The ideal, right, is to have a natural chat, a natural evolution of mentor-mentee relationship. But try to be open, and that's the hardest part. And if it's meant to happen, it will happen. After all, this is a social interaction. So there are no rules. Because sometimes people go to a mentor because they want to change career and they achieve it in 1 month after it. Sometimes people want to change careers, and because the change is bigger, it takes longer, and maybe different people can help you at different stages of this change. It's just trying to find the right person to help you in the moment you are. Always come back to that one if you think it can be helpful again. It's a networking exercise, so try to keep the network alive. It's not just click in LinkedIn, adding contacts that you think, these people can be part of my network because we work in the same industry.
Yeah, and I think it really helps. Like if you're going via some proper programs, let's say like working or something, so they have step by step, everything is like so systematic. So I think that helps. If you get along with the mentor, if you don't get along with the mentor, there are solutions for that. So thank you so much, Lorena, for taking the time out today. I'm so glad to be talking to you after such a long time and also discussing all these things.
Yeah, it was really nice to speak face to face because, as I said, right, we talked a lot, but we went more through the short, long messages way, right?
Yeah.
So everyone has their own way of communicate, especially you're in India and in London, the time zone affects. So it's a matter of creating a commitment, right? A relationship is a commitment. If I volunteer to be a mentor, I commit to have that spare time for this person. And if you want a mentor to help you, you have to commit to say like, okay, every week, every month, every 2 weeks, every 2 months, every time the problem I contacted this person with arises, I'm going to contact this person. It's a commitment, and it works both ways. Once one side stops approaching the other one, the relationship fails, right? I mean, mentor-mentee both are the two pillars of the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. It's a two-way street. So both have something to gain and something to give back. So I think that really helps if you understand that you are both in equally into this relationship. And I think that would really help flourish it. Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
what I'll do is that I'll add your LinkedIn and your website and other important links in the description box so that if someone wants to
Thank you.
contact you, they can do it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And I hope people find this conversation interesting.
Yeah.
Obviously, I spoke from a financial mentorship point of view, but mentorship can be used for all types of professions and also for all types of problems or situations in everyone's life, right? So it's not like this chat only works for people in finance. I think we all need mentors in everything.
Yeah, definitely. I think the basic idea behind mentorship and mentees and mentor, that remains the same regardless of the industry. So yeah, this is definitely going to be so much helpful for everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.